الحمد لله الذي فضل سيدنا ومولانا محمدا صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم على العالمين جميعا وأقامه يوم القيامة للمذنبين المتلوثين الخطائين الهالكين شفيعا فصلى الله تعالى وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى كل من هو محبوب ومرضي لديه أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا إني أسكنت من ذريتي بواد غير ذي زرع عند بيتك المحرم ربنا ليقيموا الصلاة فاجعل أفئدة من الناس تهوي إليهم وارزقهم من الثمرات لعلهم يشكرون صدق الله مولانا العظيم اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأبدان وشفائها ونور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. Alhamdulillah, we are discussing the blessed life of Sayyiduna Ibrahim ala nabiyyina wa alayhi salatu wassalam in today's gathering. In front of you are the notes for this blessed gathering, and on the first slide we mentioned the blessed lineage of Sayyiduna Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. And just like there were 10 forefathers between Sayyiduna Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam and Sayyiduna Adam alayhi salatu wassalam, which we discussed last week, in the same way there are 10 forefathers between Sayyiduna Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam and Sayyiduna Nuh ala nabiyyina wa alayhi salatu wassalam. So the lineage is in the notes in the Arabic typeset, in the Arabic typing. In terms of the birth of Sayyiduna Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam and what occurred at that time, Ibn Jarir al-Tabari has mentioned in his Tarikh that a star became apparent which covered the light of the sun and the moon. And the people of the time were worried by seeing this star. And the king of that time, Numrud, he was also worried by this. So he gathered the people who would look into the stars and he asked them about this. And they said that a child will be born amongst your kingdom upon whose hands will be the destruction of your kingdom. Meaning your kingdom will be destroyed at the hands of the newborn. So Numrud commanded that the men stay away from their wives and that whoever was born from that time be killed. And this is something that historically Fir'aun also did, which we will inshallah discuss in our coming sessions. But they tried to compete with the taqdeer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They tried to avoid that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had announced, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had written for them. They tried to dodge that. But that is not possible. So even though he tried to avoid the destruction of his kingdom by announcing that every child who's born will be killed, Sayyidina Ibrahim ala nabiyyina wa alayhi salatu wasalam was born and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected him. In terms of where he was born, there's differences of opinion, and we've marked that in bold in the first slide as well. That, for example, some have said he was born in Sus, some said he was born in Babil, which is known as Babylon, and there's a statement that he was born in what is known as Kuthay, and which has been noted down with a noon in the notes based upon what is in Tafsir Azizi. So there's difference of opinion about where he was born. Some say it was eastern Damascus, right, in the blessed Sham, and there's various other quotes in relation to this. So this is in relation to the blessed birth of Sayyidina Ibrahim ala nabiyyina wa alayhi salatu wassalam. In terms of when you look at the lineage on the first slide, you find that Ibrahim, the son of Tarikh, right? And there is a person called Azar as well. إِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ لِأَبِيهِ آزَرَ أَتَتَّخِذُ أَصْنَامًا آلِهَةً. So, who is this person who's literally described as Ab, who is known as Azar, and is mentioned within the Holy Quran? The word Ab literally means father. So, although there's a difference of opinion amongst the scholars, but the position that we mentioned within the slides, which is the position of many scholars of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, is that Azar was not the father of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. Rather, he was the uncle of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. The first proof that we mentioned for this on the slides is from the tafsir of Imam al-Alusi al-Baghdadi rahimahullah, in which he mentions that the majority of the Ahlul Sunnah have gone to the position that Azar was not the father of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And the reason for this is that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Lam azal unqalu min aslab at-tahir ila arham at-tahirat." That the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that I continuously rotated amongst pure wombs, pure loins to pure wombs. Meaning my forefathers were pure, and the mothers in this blessed lineage were all pure. So every single forefather of our Master Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was pure from disbelief. And therefore, Azar was not the father of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, but was rather the uncle. But then there's proof given in relation to this as well. In terms of clear proof, which is mentioned in the third slide. And the second slide, also in relation to this matter, there's three altogether. But in the second one we mention that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was told to not pray for his father. وَمَا كَانَ اسْتِغْفَارُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ لِأَبِيهِ إِلَّا عَنْ مَوْعِدَةٍ وَعَدَهَا إِيَّاهُ فَلَمَّا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ أَنَّهُ عَدُوٌّ لِلَّهِ تَبَرَّأَ مِنْهُ. So Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam's dua for what is, if I put it in vertical commas, Ab, father, he did dua of istighfar, he prayed for the forgiveness of his father, but then he stopped. When it became clear that this is the enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he became free from him and he refused to do dua for him. Then many years later, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam left his son Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam in the city of Makkah al-Mukarramah, and Sayyidina Hajar radiyallahu anha. At that time, he did a dua, and this was after Azar had died. After this, he did a dua, and it was after the time that it became clear to him that Azar is an enemy of Allah, and he stopped doing dua for him. At that time, he did a dua that we all recite in our salah continuously. رَبَّنَا اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْ. O Allah, O my Lord, O our Lord, forgive me and my parents. So he prayed for the forgiveness of his parents, and therefore this Azar was not the father of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, but rather was the uncle of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. One aspect of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam's blessed life from the beginning is the way in which he alayhi salatu wasalam negated, rebutted argued against the idol worshippers. And in many different ways and on many different occasions, the idol worshippers were shown how the line that they are upon is completely false and how they should leave that line. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam Aynul Yaqeen, that knowledge that is of absolute certainty. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this in the Quran, وَكَذَلِكَ نُرِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ مَلَكُوتَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَلِيَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُوقِنِينَ. So likewise we showed Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam the entire kingdom of the heavens and the earth, وَلِيَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُوقِنِينَ, so that he be from those who believe as eyewitnesses. So one thing is believing, but one thing is believing upon seeing with Aynul Yaqeen, with that insight. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam that insight, to the extent that the scholars have mentioned, فَإِنَّهُ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامُ فُرِّجَتْ لَهُ السَّمَاوَاتُ السَّبْعُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened up the 7 skies before Ibrahim alayhi salam. فَنَظَرَ إِلَى مَا فِيهِنَّ. So he saw whatever is in these skies. حَتَّى انتهى بصره إلى العرش, until his sight reached the throne. وَفُرِّجَتْ لَهُ الْأَرْضُونَ السَّبْعُ. And he saw the earth and whatever is beneath it. فَنَظَرَ إِلَى مَا فِيهِنَّ. So he saw the entire earth, and in the same way he saw whatever is in the skies. And this is how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened up before Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. With reference to Ruh al-Ma'ani, we have mentioned in the notes a narration of Ibn Marduya, who narrates from Sayyidina Ali karramallahu wajhahu al-kareem, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam mentioned how far this sight of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was. That he saw a person committing a sin, hidden away. Nobody else could see that person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam that sight, that he saw this person committing the sin, and he did dua for the destruction of that person, and that person was destroyed. Then Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam saw another person committing a sin, and he was going to do the same when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him not to do this, and said that maybe from the children of this person Allah would create those people through whom Allah's greatness would be established on the earth. People would remember Allah on the earth. And otherwise, even if that did not occur, the matter of this person will be left to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is how we learn from the lives of the Anbiya alayhim salatu wassalam, that we don't judge people by their sinning. We don't condemn people by their sinning, because we are all sinful. We leave the doors of tawbah open to them. But yes, the repercussions of people's actions led to punishment. But then we do not judge what the ending of that person will be. Without going off the topic too much, there was a famous Sahabi, Sayyidina Ma'iz al-Aslami, radiyallahu ta'ala an. When he, radiyallahu ta'ala an, he committed an error due to which he was punished. And he wanted that punishment on this earth so that he's not punished in the akhirah. So he, radiyallahu ta'ala an, was punished on this earth for that action, that wrong action that he committed. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the Sahaba, do not condemn this Sahabi for his error, because he has done such a tawbah that if this tawbah, if this repentance was distributed amongst the entire earth, it would be enough for everybody. It would encompass the entire earth and whatever is in it. So those who sin, their tawbah, at-taibu min adh-dhanbi kaman la dhanba lahu. The one who does tawbah from a sin is like the one who did not do a sin. So therefore, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, when he saw this sinner, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us through the lives of the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam to have mercy upon those who are sinful. And in terms of the refutation of idol worshippers, we mentioned in the slides the ayat of the Quran. That when Sayyidina Ibrahim, وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ لِأَبِيهِ آزَرَ, when Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam said to his uncle Azar, أَتَتَّخِذُ أَسْنَامًا آلِهَةً, do you appoint idols as gods? إِنِّي أَرَاكَ وَقَوْمَكَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ, indeed I find you and your people in open error. So Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, he condemned the idol worship. And in what way did he do it in front of this uncle of his? He said, إِذْ قَالَ لِأَبِيهِ يَا أَبَتِ لِمَ تَعْبُدْ مَا لَا يَسْمَعْ. He said to his father, why do you worship that which does not listen? وَلَا يُبْصِرْ, nor does it see. وَلَا يُغْنِي عَنْكَ شَيْئًا, and it cannot benefit you in any way. And then practically, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam went on to prove how these idols could not benefit these people. Let alone benefit these people, these idols could not benefit themselves. وَلَا يُغْنِي عَنْكَ شَيْئًا يَا أَبَتِ إِنِّي قَدْ جَاءَنِي مِنَ الْعِلْمِ. O my father, and this way of saying father, as is mentioned in the notes as well, that referring to those who are not your father as father is proven in the Quran as well, in other places. For example, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that وَوَصَّى بِهَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ بَنِيهِ وَيَعْقُوبُ, when Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam gave advice to his children and to Yaqub, right, what deen would you be upon? Right, what deen will you be firm upon? And then the answer came that we will be upon the way of our forefathers, on the way of our fathers, right, and including in that was the uncles. Right, so in that meaning came uncle as well. So this is mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 133. أَمْ كُنْتُمْ شُهَدَاءَ إِذْ حَدَرَ يَعْقُوبَ الْمَوْتُ إِذْ قَالَ لِبَنِيهِ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِنْ بَعْدِي. So Allah mentions that this wasiyah, this advice to follow the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone was passed down amongst the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam. And when Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam, when the time came for him to meet his Lord, he said to his sons, إِذْ حَدْرَ يَعْقُوبَ الْمَوْتُ إِذْ قَالَ لِبَنِيهِ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِنْ بَعْدِي. What will you worship after me? قَالُوا نَعْبُدُ إِلَهَكَ. They said, we will worship your Lord, your God. وَإِلَهَ آبَائِكَ, and the God of your forefathers. Ibrahim wa Ismail wa Ishaq. Ilahan wahida. Ibrahim, Ismail and Ishaq. The one Lord. And inshallah, as we move ahead in our discussion, we'll be learning that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, the lineage of the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam came through Sayyidina Ishaq, his son Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam. And the lineage of our master Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam came through the lineage of his son Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam. So the children of Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam, Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam was not their father, was not their grandfather, was not Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam's father, but rather he was his uncle. And there they're referring to him as father. So this is an example of how the word ab is used for am, and in the same way for khal, for the paternal and maternal uncles. And he said, Ya abati inni qad ja'ani min al-ilm, indeed has come to me from knowledge, ma lam ya'tik, which did not come to you. Fattabi'ni, so follow me, ahdika siratan sawiya, I will show you the straight path. Now, like we mentioned in the topic of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam, the maw'idatul hasana, the best way of advising and calling people towards worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, towards the path of the deen. We learn this from the blessed lives of the Anbiya alayhi salatu wassalam. So when you look towards the way in which Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam is mentioning this to his uncle, right, that I have a knowledge which you do not have, and I want to show you the way of the straight path. And then he carried on, Ya abati la ta'budi shaytan, inna shaytana kana lirrahmani asiyya. Oh my father, oh my uncle, do not be a servant of the devil, because the devil is asi, he is disobedient to the most merciful, to the Rahman. And Ya abat, inni akhafu an yamassaka adabu min ar-Rahman. Oh my father, indeed I fear the punishment of Allah will reach you. Shaytani waliya, and you would become a companion of the devil. You'd become a companion of the shaitan. So he's mentioning with love and with affection, and that's why the word Ya Abati is there as well, to bring his uncle towards belief in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to call him to leave the worship of idols. But they would not take words alone. So Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam then announced his enmity towards his idols, and thereafter practically showed to them how idiotic their belief is in idols. So on the slides I mentioned Surah Ash-Shu'ara, ayah number 69 to 81. وَاتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ نَبَأَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Right? إِذْ قَالَ لِأَبِيهِ وَقَوْمِهِ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ. So I advise you to look into the translation given on those slides and to try to understand their meanings. And amongst those ayat as they go along is the words of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam when he did pray for his uncle. At that time he prayed, but then Allah explains in Surah At-Tawbah that istighfar of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam for his father was only based upon a promise. When it became clear he's the enemy of Allah, he left doing istighfar for him. But then amongst that is also that he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَا تُخْزِنِي يَوْمَ يُبْعَثُونَ. Oh Allah, do not disgrace me on the day that they are raised. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ. On that day when neither wealth nor children will benefit. إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. Except whoever comes to Allah with a sound heart, with a pure heart. And this is one of the du'as of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam for this ummah. What we have as an ummah is a thamara, is a fruit of the dua of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. When he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make the final messenger, Sayyiduna Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, be amongst his lineage, amongst his descendants. And then he said, he described that final messenger who comes, what will he do? يُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ. He will teach them the kitab and wisdom, and he will purify them. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ. And he will purify them. إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. Our Master sallallahu alayhi wasallam is not only pure, but whatever is linked and attached to him becomes pure. To the extent that every human being has a qareen who's born with him, a shaitan who's born with him. But Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the jinn who was born with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, accepted Islam. That thing which was originally evil, and every single one of us is born with that evil with us, But when it became attached to Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that became pure. So Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam did this dua for this ummah, that it be blessed, and for his lineage, that he be blessed with that blessed master and final messenger to be amongst his children, amongst his descendants, who purifies the entire earth. So Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, under the title of the smashing of the idols in the notes, we have Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam practically showed them the idiocy behind idol worship. That you're worshipping something that, let alone benefit you, it can't even benefit itself. Can't even protect itself. So he said, وَتَاللَّهِ لَأَكِيدَنَّ أَصْنَامَكُمْ. By Allah, I will destroy your idols. Right? لَأَكِيدَنَّ أَصْنَامَكُمْ بَعْدَ أَن تُوَلُّوا مُدْبِرِينَ. After you have gone away and turned your backs. In terms of what occurred at this time, it's mentioned within the books of Tariq that after Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam had announced how idiotic it is to worship the idols, he moved on to practically show them. Every year they would go on a festival, and this was on the outskirts of the city. His uncle Azad called him to attend this gathering. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam answered and he said, Inni saqeem. I am about to be sick. Inshallah, this is also mentioned in the notes, that when Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam answered them that I'm not coming to the festival, and he said, I am about to be sick. In terms of what is the explanation of this statement, we will discuss that inshallah. So, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam found these idols in what is like a hole. And he saw that they had put food in front of these idols. So Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam said to these idols with contempt, and in a way of making fun out of them. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam said to the idols, Ala ta'kulun. Do you not eat? Ma lakum la tantiqun. What is it with you that you don't speak? And فَجَعَلَهُمْ جُذَاذًا إِلَّا كَبِيرًا لَهُمْ. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, he shattered them all with an axe. And he made them into pieces, except for the big one. So this was an open dalil to them, that if these idols were gods, then they would protect themselves from harm. But even though this became so clear to them, that what are we doing protecting something that can't protect itself? They came back all fired up. قالوا من فعل هذا بآلهتنا. Who did this to our idols? إنه لمن الظالمين. He indeed cruel. قالوا سمعنا فتى. They said, we've heard of a young man, يذكرهم يقال له إبراهيم, who mentions them in a bad way, and they call him Ibrahim. قالوا فأتوا به على أعين الناس. They said, bring him in front of all the people. لعلهم يشهدون, so that they may all testify. Right? So they wanted to make witnesses, call him in front of everyone, and let's see what he has to say. قالوا أنت فعلت هذا بآلهتنا يا إبراهيم. Did you do this to our gods, O Ibrahim? قال بل فعله كبيرهم هذا. He said, rather their chief may have done it. فاسألوهم إن كانوا ينطقون. So question them if they can speak. فرجعوا إلى أنفسهم. So they returned towards themselves. فَقَالُوا إِنَّكُمْ أَنْتُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ, and inwardly said, indeed you are ظالمون. Right? So it's mentioned in the tafasir, فَعَادُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ بِالْمَلَامَةِ. They turned to themselves in condemnation and said, you are wrong. So they kind of realized originally, but then still they remained adamant. And some scholars have said that when they said إِنَّكُمْ أَنْتُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ, it was not to say that we are wrong to worship idols, but rather it was we were wrong that we left these idols without any God, right, without any protector. So instead of realizing that the thing that they're worshipping has no effect in it whatsoever, no benefit in it, no ability to harm either, right? But instead of realizing that, instead of realizing the da'wah that was in front of them, after the words that have been brought in front of them, now the actions were showing to them that the idols that they are worshipping, this worship has no benefit. They were, instead of regretting worshipping the idols, they were regretting not having a protector for these idols, not having a guard there. So Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam, he said, قَالَ أَفَتَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ, do you worship besides Allah مَا لَا يَنْفَعُكُمْ شَيْئًا, what does not benefit you at all, وَلَا يَضُرُّكُمْ, and no harms you, أُفِّلْ لَكُمْ وَلِمَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ, disgrace upon you and all the idols whom you worship. أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ, do you not have aql, do you not have wisdom? It's at this point that we discuss in the notes that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, when the nation invited him to the festival that they had on a yearly basis, Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam responded, Inni saqim. We've translated this as, I am about to be sick. And literally it means, Inni saqim, I am sick. So what does this mean? And there's other such statements, such as when they asked Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, who destroyed our idols? Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam responded, بَلْ فَعَلَهُ كَبِيرُهُمْ, which literally one could translate as, moreover the big one did it. This big one did it. بَلْ فَعَلَهُ كَبِيرُهُمْ هَذَا. And in the same way, the third statement of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, which is linked to something that occurred later on, which I'm hoping to mention inshallah, which is when Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was traveling, was migrating, on the way, along with Sayyidah Sarah, his blessed wife, Sayyidah Sarah radiyallahu ta'ala anha, a king stopped them on the way. And he was informed that there's a beautiful woman with Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. It's mentioned, the beauty of Sayyidah Sarah radiallahu anha, as far as I recall, we put them in the notes as well, was immense. It's mentioned that Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, who's famous for he was from the lineage of Sayyidah Sarah. So as children have the appearances of their forefathers, of certain members of their family, in the same way many of the appearances of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam were of Sayyidah Sarah radiallahu ta'ala anha. So this king called Sayyidah Sarah and he wished to oppress Sayyidah Sarah radiallahu anha. Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam told Sayyidah Sarah that if he asks you who you are, you say that I am his sister, the sister of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And in the hadith that this is mentioned in is clear because Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam said that there is no believer on the earth but us. So you are my sister in Islam. So that itself kind of answers and explains the third statement. But there is clarification given of all these statements within the notes. First of all, we have the hadith Right, the blessed hadith mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari that an Abi Hurayrah radiyallahu ta'ala an, Sayyidina Abu Hurayrah radiyallahu ta'ala an narrates, لم يكذب إبراهيم إلا ثلاث كذبات. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam did not say things which were against what the people perceived except for three things. So what were perceived to be lies were three things. ثنتان منهن في ذات الله. Two of these were in relation to the Dhat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قوله إني سقيم, when he said, I am about to be sick. وقوله بل فعله كبيرهم هذا, and when he said, moreover this big one did it, in terms of the idol. وقال بينما هو ذات يوم وسار إذ أتى على جبار من الجبابرة. And once was when he and Sayyidah Sarah were in front of a tyrant king. Right, so in terms of the gist of that hadith, the part of the hadith about Sayyidah Sarah, I've mentioned that to you already. But in terms of when Sayyidah Sarah radiallahu ta'ala anha went to that king, in front of that king tried to grab the hand of Sayyidah Sarah radiallahu ta'ala anha, but he was grasped and he could not move. So he said to Sayyidah Sarah, do dua for me and I won't harm you. So once she did dua and he was freed, he once again did dua. He once again tried to grab her. And once again this happened to him. He said, do dua for me. The third time he did this as well. And he said, you have not brought to me a human being. You have brought to me a non-human. You brought to me a jinn. So he gave Sayyidah Hajar as a khadima to Sayyidah Sarah radiallahu anha, as a maid to Sayyidah Sarah. So Sayyidah Sarah came back to Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam while Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was performing salah. And Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam asked what happened, and she said that Allah has turned the plan of the kafir on his chest. So his plan was destroyed. And Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala said that is your mother, O Bani Sama, O Bani Ma'is Sama. Meaning, O Arabs, your mother is Sayyidah Hajar radiallahu ta'ala anha. So this is the hadith. Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah summarizes this. And that saves us from going on too long on this part. Just these words of Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah hopefully will be enough for us to understand this matter fully. That in terms of we cannot call these words lies. So in the hadith, the word kadhib is used. But he explains, وَأَمَّا إِطْلَاقُهُ الْكَذِبَ عَلَى الْأُمُورِ الثَّلَاثَةِ فَلِكَوْنِهِ قَالَ قَوْلًا يَعْتَقِدُهُ السَّامِعُ كَذِبًا. As for applying the word kadhib, lie, upon these three matters, it's because Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam had said a statement that the person who's listening would think is a lie. لَكِنَّهُ إِذَا حَقَّقَ لَمْ يَكُنْ كَذِبًا. But when he looked into it deeply, it is not really a lie. لأنه من باب المعاريض المحتملة للأمرين. Because this is from those matters that have two possibilities. فليس بكذب محض. So it's not merely a lie. Right? So in terms of the explanation, inni saqim. Right? So we've given this under the title the first statement, right, and the second statement, and the third statement. We've given a short summary of why these statements were made. Right? So in terms of the first statement, I am about to be sick. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam did not say, I am about to be sick right now. He just said, I am about to be sick. So the person who's listening thought that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam meant that he is about to be sick now. But rather, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam meant that he will be sick in the future. Right? So he meant the further meaning. And Mullah Ali al-Qari rahimahullah, in his Mirqatul Mafatih, which is a commentary on Mishkatul Masabih, he gave another meaning to this. And he said, Inni saqimul qalb lima fihi min al-ghayr. I am sick in my heart, meaning I am not happy with you in my heart, due to the anger that is in my heart, بِإِتِّخَاذِكُمُ النُّجُومِ آلِهَةً, by your taking the stars to be your gods, وَبِعِبَادَتِكُمُ الْأَصْنَامِ, and by your worship of idols. So this is the understanding of when Sayyidina Ibrahim ﷺ was invited to the festival, he said, Inni saqim. So there's two possibilities of that. And in the second statement, بَلْ فَعَلَهُ كَبِيرُهُمْ, in relation to that, the scholars have mentioned a number of reasons. And that is actually given under the title of the reasons for the second statement. There's the first meaning, second meaning, and third meaning given within the notes. So one is, بَلْ فَعَلَهُ كَبِيرُهُمْ هَذَا. It's a form of saying something that's absolutely clear to somebody else. So if you do something and you're only the one who's able to do it, and somebody asks you, did you do this? And you say, no, moreover, you did it. The example that's given in the notes is, if somebody's a really good writer, and somebody comes in front of him who doesn't know how to write, and he says to him, did you write this? And he says, no, bal katabtahu ant. Moreover, you wrote this. When he's saying, moreover, you wrote this, it's not saying that you actually wrote this. It's rather a form of ta'reed. It's a form of saying that you did not have the ability to write this, so who else wrote this apart from myself? Right? In the same way, Sayyidina Ibrahim ﷺ is saying this. And in this bab, in the writing bab, that would be something that we would say you shouldn't say to another person. Right? You should not make the other person feel that he is lower than you. But on this matter, this is a bab in relation to making their false belief clear. Right? It's a form of debate. So Sayyidina Ibrahim ﷺ said, بَلْ فَعَلَهُ كَبِيرُهُمْ هَذَا. Right? So you're saying, did you break this idol? Right? Moreover, this big one did it. Meaning the big one couldn't have done it. So who else did this? So that's one way of silencing the opponent by saying this. And the second meaning that's given is that Sayyidina Ibrahim ﷺ saw this big idol adorned more than the others. And when he saw this, this caused him to carry out the destruction of the idols. And that's why he attributed the action to the big one, because the big idol was the cause of this action. So I'm just giving you a few of the meanings. The rest are given. There's 6 meanings altogether given. As a matter of fact, 7 reasons altogether given with reference to Sayyidina Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi rahimahullah's At-Tafsir al-Kabir. So therefore you can refer to them in your readings. And in terms of the third statement, هَذِهِ أُخْتِي, like I said, he had already said in the narration itself, it says, فَأَخْبِرِيهِ أَنَّكِ أُخْتِي فِي الْإِسْلَامِ. Inform him when you go to him that I am your sister in Islam. So he was making, it's clear there that the statement that she is my sister, that I am his sister, this is a statement that is correct, and it was not a lie, and it was not intended to be a lie, and he made it clear that his sister in Islam. When the nation faced all of this disgrace, right, and still would not back down, still would not accept. So they tried their best to debate with Sayyidina Ibrahim ﷺ, to have an argument with Sayyidina Ibrahim ﷺ, but they were defeated in every way possible. So they had only one option left, and that was to use their power, use their authority. So they left debating, and they decided to gather wood from all places and burn a fire in which they would throw Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam into it. They were so ignorant in relation to this that if a woman would become ill, she would do another. She would make a vow. And in that vow she would say that if I become better, if I gain good health, then I will carry wood to the place that we are gathering wood to burn Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. So they were so ignorant that they saw this as a great deed that they were doing, a great action that they were doing. So they had a hole, a great hole in which they gathered all the wood and they set the fire alight and it became blazing. But it became extremely huge fire. It was a huge fire, so huge that they could not go near this fire. So they did not know how to put Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam into this fire without getting harmed themselves. So they made a catapult and threw Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam using that. So they began to put shackles, chains around Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, and whilst they were doing this, he was saying, La ilaha illa ant, subhanak, lakal hamd, wa lakal mulk, la sharika lak. So even at that time he was in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they threw him into the fire and he was saying, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Allah is enough for us and He is the best of guardians. It's mentioned that Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam came to Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam and said, do you have a need? Alaka haja? Do you have a need? And Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam said, Amma ilayka fala. As for you, from you I don't have any need from you. So it's mentioned that Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam said, you don't have a need from me, but ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have a need from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam said, ilmuhu hasbi an su'ali ilmuhu bihali. His knowledge of my state suffices me from even asking in His court. So this was the high level of his tawakkul, of his trust in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Tafsir al-Kabir, is mentioned how high the wall was that was built around this fire. Right? Extremely high. And how huge this fire was. And we've mentioned within the notes as well this statement of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, Hasbi min su'ali ilmuhu bihali. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the fire, قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Be cool and peaceful upon Ibrahim. Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma has mentioned that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say Salaman ala Ibrahim, the coldness, the coolness of this fire would cause harm to Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. So be so cool that you are not too cool. Be peaceful upon Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And Ka'b al-Ahbar radiallahu ta'ala an mentioned that on that day nobody benefited from fire. Nobody could take benefit from fire on that day. Fire became cool on that day. And nothing was burnt except for the shackle of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. So the chain that they used to tie Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, that chain was burnt. And it's mentioned by some that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam stayed in there, in that fire for 40 or 50 days. And it's also mentioned by Ad-Dahhak that this place in the fire became mithlul juna. It became like a gulf for Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. وَهُوَ فِي رَوْدَةٍ خَضْرَاءٍ, and he was in a green garden. So you know when they say garden within the fire, this is based upon this. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, within this fire, he was in a peaceful place. وَالنَّاسُ يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَيْهِ لَا يَقْدِرُونَ عَلَى الْوُصُولِ إِلَيْهِ. The people were looking towards Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, but they were not able to reach Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. And he would not come out towards them. So this was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's great sha'an, a manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's azim qudra, azim power, great power, that within this burning fire, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was resting peacefully, was having a peaceful time, and this fire was not causing him alayhi salatu wasalam any harm. So after Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was saved from this fire, he alayhi salatu wasalam continued negating the idol worshippers. So he showed them the stars, the moon, and he showed them the sun, and he said to them that if these were his Lord, they were trying to say that these are his God. If this was the case, then why do they disappear? Why do they change? Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change. So in terms of Numrud, this king that we mentioned earlier, this Numrud, he was told at the time of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam's birth that he would be destroyed, that his destruction and the destruction of his kingdom was near. But he was an arrogant king, and he also had a munadhara, he also had a debate with Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And he claimed to be the Rabb. He claimed to be the one worthy of worship. And Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam made it clear how jahil he is, how ignorant he is. It's mentioned in the Quran that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam said, Rabbi alladhi yuhyi wa yumit. My Lord is he who gives life and death. He said, Ana uhyi wa umit. Ma'adallah. He said, I give life and death. But not he's claiming to give life and death, but how is he giving life and death? Is he deciding that somebody will be born? Is he decreeing someone will be born, and is it in his power to make somebody born? Rather, what he did was, he had two people in front of him, two prisoners. He said, one prisoner I'm setting him free, so I've given him life. And the other one, I'm maintaining the punishment of death upon him, so I'm giving him death. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, although the idiocy of the argument of Numrud was clear, Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam made an even stronger argument to destroy him, and said, my Lord is he who brings the sun. He makes the sun rise from the east. فَأْتِ بِهَا مِنَ الْمَغْرِبِ. So you make it rise from the west. فَبُهِتَ الَّذِي كَفَرَ. So he was silenced by that. He could not answer that. He was not able to make any false, even the slightest of argument against that. So he was destroyed in the arguments in this way. It's mentioned that he was the king of Babylon. And his name, some scholars have said that his name was Numrud bin Kan'an bin Kush bin Sam bin Nuh. And there's another lineage has also been mentioned by the scholars. He was one of those kings who had kingdom over the entire earth. It's mentioned that 4 people were given kingdom over the entire earth. 2 were believers and 2 were kafir. The 2 believers were Sayyiduna Dhul Qarnayn and Sayyiduna Sulaiman. And the 2 kuffar, one was Numrud and one was Bukht Nasr. And this Numrud, his kingdom lasted for 400 years. And 400 years he spent in punishment. So it's mentioned how this occurred by Zayd ibn Aslam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent an angel to this tyrant king to command him to accept his iman, and he rejected. Then he called him a second time, he rejected. Third time, and he rejected. So the angel said, you gather your army and I'll gather my army. So Numrud gathered his army at the time of sunrise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down mosquitoes to the extent that the sun could not be seen. Mosquitoes covered the entire earth. And these mosquitoes became musallat. They had control over this nation and began to eat away at the flesh of this nation and the blood of this nation. Until it's mentioned, وَتَرَكَتْهُمْ عِظَامًا بَالِيًا, until they were left as worn out bones. And one of these mosquitoes entered the nostril of Numrud, this king. And it remained in his nostril for 400 years. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished him in a way that in order to gain some solace from this, he would be hit with an iron rod. And others have mentioned that he would be hit with slippers. Right? During this 400 years, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed him. So he enjoyed kingdom for 400 years, but this is how he enjoyed the remaining 400 years. It is mentioned that he lived for 800 years. But the last of his 400 years was with such zillah. And this shows to us how we should never be arrogant, never have takabbur, never have ujub, which means to have self-praise and self-love, that I have something from myself. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, what we have could be destroyed. And our abilities could be destroyed with the slightest insect entering into our body could destroy our entire movements. And this is what happened to this Numrud. We are on slide 27 and we have a few slides left. And next week we'll be discussing the life of the nephew of Sayyiduna Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, Sayyiduna Lut ala nabiyyina wa alayhi salatu wasalam. So because of the fact that this topic and that topic is interlinked, because when the angels come to Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam to give him the glad tidings of Sayyidina Ishaq and Sayyidina Ismail, at that time the angels are also on the way to punish the nation of alayhi salam. Because this topic is very long, it was very difficult to calmly go through it in 1 hour. And I was taking my time today in discussing, in terms of explaining it, rather than rushing through it. And so we will discuss from the migration of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam in terms of his hijrah, his marriage, and then his children, and the sacrifice of Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam, and the glad tidings of Sayyidina Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam. And then inshallah we will move on to Sayyidina Lut alayhi salatu wasalam in the coming week. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all for attending, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our gathering and forgive any mistakes that this sinner has committed, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to rectify our errors and to learn from these blessed lives of the Anbiya alayhim salatu wasalam, to take from them that great tawakkul that is apparent, that great steadfastness. So tawakkul meaning that great trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, seeing a fire, a blazing fire that people could not go near, but yet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam is not doing dua at that time. He's saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of my situation. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. So his words are that Allah is enough for me. Right? And He's the best of guardian. And these words were also the words of our master, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When he was told, oh, there's huge armies gathering against you. He said, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Right? So Allah is enough for us if we remember that and we turn to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala in our lives. And we trust Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. We become happy with whatever He has decreed for us, instead of complaining about our situations. Right? So there's no word of complaint here. There's no word of distress here. There's no word of fear here in front of this huge fire. But rather, it was His awareness of my state suffices me from even asking in His court. And then you see the different tests that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam faced, the different kinds of people and the jababir and the ignorant and the tyrants who he alayhi salatu wasalam faced with hikmah, with wisdom. And this is the forefather of our Master sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But he is, our Master sallallahu alayhi wasallam is also his master and the master of all the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, which inshallah I will also try to touch upon in the coming week. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us, and we will inshallah conclude with the dua. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات.